Welcome to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by Haven, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello and welcome to the Haven Hubcast. I am Nancy Sheed, your host, and I am literally jumping in my seat as we are looking forward to speaking with Curt Battles. Curt is the founder and CEO of Craft Beer Insights, and we are going to talk beer. We're going to talk all things insights, but more importantly, we're going to talk about a lot more than that. But Curt, welcome to the Haven Hubcast.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I feel like we kind of jump ahead by giving what your current role is, but you are so much more than a founder and a CEO of one entity. And I know you have a very interesting journey that our listeners would love to hear about in terms of how did you get to this place? I'm assuming when you were in high school, maybe you were dreaming about beers and craft beers, but something tells me that wasn't the only thing you were thinking about back when you were launching in your career. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about your background?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So I have been in 3 different industries in my career, and I had a long corporate career. I went to Cornell undergrad for hotel, and so I spent the first portion of my career in the hotel business, both managing hotel properties and a small club down in Florida where literally I was moving food around as the food and beverage controller. I did that for a couple of years before I went back to business school. I went to Kellogg. And I specialized in finance and strategy. And I spent time a summer in banking with what was then Chemical Bank. But then I spent most of my time with Pepsi. And I was in their strategic planning group. I was in their bottling group at headquarters. And then I was an area CFO out in the field before I came back to run strategic planning. And then after I left Pepsi, I spent 20 years with Jones Lang LaSalle, which at the time I joined was called LaSalle Partners, global real estate firm. I've done everything, including managing buildings over 2 million square feet, doing retail projects, going out and helping do brokerage for large corporate clients. And the 2 projects that will probably be most well known are Grand Central Terminal redevelopment and World Trade Center redevelopment. So I became an entrepreneur about 10 years ago. I started in the same space doing transit-oriented development projects that I was already familiar with from my time at LaSalle. And then I have evolved to helping small to mid-sized businesses that are in growth mode figure out what they want to do and how to do that next. And along the way, I transited into beer because I was helping a small brewery that somebody told me about who was trying to figure out where they wanted to place their first location. And so I literally was walking in the hills up in Westchester County with them, looking at it, talking about hops. And that became the impetus for starting this business. I started drinking beer in college, so I've come full circle now to helping people who are in the craft beer space.
I love that. And I love that you brought the full circle, but I also want to bring the food circle that you started in hospitality, food and beverage, right? And then went through finance, banking, real estate, transit projects. And now again, coming back full circle to the hospitality, the food and beverage and all that. But now with that whole other layer of expertise, experience, connections, and community, which I think makes total sense for the current project. Again, I don't want to hold off the suspense on the beer, but you touched upon 10 years ago, starting your own sort of helping small businesses in growth mode. That's something you're still doing and you're very passionate about. And I know you've written things about it and you've talked to people about it. So what does that look like, alongside your journey and the project you're on now?
Well, I think it works and it meshes very well because I'm dealing with those same sort of issues as an entrepreneur. I always need more money for whatever it is, especially as you'll find out a project in the technology space. You always need good quality advisors outside, or I sometimes call it the adults in the room.
Right.
So when you say, I'm going to make $1 billion from this, you say, that is great. And I really expect that you will, but let's think about how we're going to go about doing that. What are the other team members and expertise that you need, and particularly that you may not have? and your ability to recognize where you are great and where you need help. And I
Mm.
think that I am very good at helping people synthesize all the pieces they have and say, here's the 2 or 3 things you need to do first to get to the next level. And it's really about helping them chart that path forward to how they can succeed exactly as they wish to.
I love that, and just some of the things you're saying, pointing out those strengths and weaknesses, being the adult in the room. I think we get a little lulled into, I can start my own business and do my own thing. It's fine. I don't need anybody else. Everything's easy. It's DIY. And then you get in the thick of it and you realize, oh boy, that's good to know you're out there. So, Curt, you shifted into the craft beer, helping one company, and that is now kind of that became the catalyst for craft beer insights and looking at the industry. And I know you've written a book about it. Can you share a little bit about it? Then we're going to talk about the big project that you're in the midst of launching.
I found the craft beer space was exciting. So, just to give you some sense of it, there's 9,500 craft breweries around the country now. And that's up from about 8,000 prior to the pandemic. It's a $100 billion industry, and craft beer is roughly 13% of it. 85% of the population lives within 10 miles of a craft brewery, no matter where they are in the country. So
80, wait,
sometimes
say that again. 85.
85% of the US population lives within 10 miles of a craft brewery, no
That's
matter where
extraordinary.
they're. So even though you think of big states like California and North Carolina and Vermont as havens for this, it's everywhere. And what I tell people is some people make great beer. Some people make beer that's good only because their mamas and their buddies tell them so. And so I am here to help you figure out how to take this passion and turn it into a business that earns money for you. Because so many of them are great at brewing, but they're terrible at business. And that's part of how I got started in this pathway.
I love it. And so people come to work with you sort of again in that model you've just referred to of figuring out the business model, what to do. Can they come to you at any stage, Curt? Like, I mean, just I'm still making it in their bathtub. I know you're not supposed to do that, but like
Yeah.
still making it at home, or do they have to be at a certain level or distribution or, area to be able to work with you, in a way that's useful?
So I work with brewers at all stages. Some of those that are in planning. There are, just to give the audience a sense, there are brewers that have literally a restaurant and they make beer, which we call brew pub, but it's like the old tavern that you would
Mhm.
had at a roadside. You have those that only have a tasting room because they were a home brewer and there's over 4 million of them and they've been tossed out by their family from all the smell in the garage and everything else. You have micro brewers, which probably have distribution in a limited area, but also they may or may not have food. A lot of times it's food trucks, other things. There are regional brewers like Two Roads, that's right up the road in Stratford,
Right?
that is distributed over a wider bit. And part of what they do is contract brewing, so they brew for other people. And then there's larger ones that are in the business like Boston Brewing that people think about that are sort of national brands.
Right.
The one
Got
thing
it.
we found over time is that beer is very local and people want to go out to where they are to be with their friends, but they also want to do other things with it and go across the country. So,
Nice, nice. And that's a nice I think that's a perfect segue into this very exciting project that you are in the midst of launching, which sounds like it kind of came out of what you were seeing and learning and gleaning and seeing a gap in the marketplace for bringing all of these people together. Can you talk a little bit about what this exciting project?
I am excited to tell you about it. So, I've created an app called the Brewery Adventure Tour. We call it the BAT app. And that may be because BAT is the first of 3 letters of my name, but it just happened to work out that way. I got this idea when I was going with my wife. She had a conference out in Scottsdale. I had been in this space for 2 or 3 years. I wanted to go out and find some places to try out because I always do. And I found it was incredibly difficult. You'd have to go to Google and the Yelp and local papers, but there was no one thing in my hand that would help me get there. So I came up with this idea, and that the app does 2 things. It's both on a desktop and a mobile, and you can actually download it on Google and Android. And we're just launching the beta phase now. So what happens is for the craft beer lover, the app will give them the 6 geolocated closest breweries to wherever they happen to be, and they can put any city in the country into it. They can create their own itineraries. They can send them to friends. They can make breweries their favorites. For the breweries, they get their own webpage. It lets them list what the hours are open, what they offer, food, music, events. And really, this is a lifestyle app. It's meant to bring, but it's primarily millennials and Gen Z that love to have experiences versus gathering things. But for boomers like myself, I love craft beer. It gives me an easy way to go around. And that we've brought it all together by creating advertising platform within it. So brewers can advertise special events. They have a new beer offering. They have yoga classes. They have a comedy night. It becomes that additional element to connect them all together. And it's an industry that really likes to work together with each other.
I love that. I just love your sense of being able to bring everybody together. And I think, I told you I met somebody and they were empty nesters and their plan was to go literally state by state and try and tick off as many craft breweries as they can. And so when she said that, I was like, that's a fascinating project. How do you go about like checking your list? And with the app that you have, there you go. And I think seeing use for it, right? When I'm typically in a place, I'll go look at bands in town to see,
Yeah.
because I like music. So I want to see like who's in the area. So I love that. And I love that you're actually serving both sides of the equation, right? Like you're making life easier for the brewers as well as for the consumers and actually creating a community space for it. I know you're not doing this all by yourself in your basement. And I think that's also part of what's interesting in your story. Can you share like your journey from you had this idea to, and you've referenced technology companies. So how do you go from idea to beta launch of an app in this day and age during COVID?
So it starts with I have a virtual team. Several of them are based here in Connecticut. So my marketing colleague is Maria Fernanda Ordonez. She's originally from Colombia. She is an amazing marketer. She worked for and has run major brands like Coke for multiple countries. And she's been here in the US for the last 20 years plus. And so she's sort of my front of the house person, helps me with social media and marketing strategy and how we're going to get this to the consumers. And then I have Rick Glover, who is a multipreneur himself and has been in real estate, he's been in technology. And so he is the one that is my sort of business coach and helps me keep on point. So the two of them are my primary piece, but then we outsource a lot of things, video production and other things of that nature to people both in the US and outside the US. And then my development team is actually in Bogota, Colombia. So I've been going down to Bogota. I've been there 3 or 4 times. I'm learning Spanish so that I can actually understand what everybody's saying, other
Nice.
than having to translate it to me. And that has saved money in terms of the cost of this, because what happens is you have the original idea and then you say, oh, well, we need it to be so it's geolocated. Oh, now we need to have it so that it can handle, we need images. So we need to buy images. And part of what we did here is we've tested this with the brewers and talked to them about what was important to them. And I've also had a student group from Elon University that did a project for me. I was the guest professor where they actually thought about how do we introduce it? What are the audiences? What should it be named? What are the things that are going to be important to people? So we've tried to really think through this, but in today's world, everybody is in multiple places. Zoom or Teams is our friend, and
Mm.
you can get an amazing thing done much more efficiently. I used to commute an hour and a half to downtown Manhattan. So that was 3 hours a day. That was not the most efficient use of time. Now I get up 5 minutes later, I'm in the office and I can manage my day as I see fit. And so it makes a huge difference.
I love that. And I love all the pieces that you've pulled together that are probably, the sum making, the sum being much greater than all of its parts as you're moving into this launch phase. Curt, it's very exciting. And at the time of this airing, hopefully we'll be able to, we'll put the link for people to share and beta test or the show notes. What are your next steps? So, again, I like kind of sharing with our listeners what this journey looks like. You have been working with your team, you've been developing it, you're literally, kicking off beta mode. What does the journey look like beyond this, if you don't mind sharing? How long is somebody in beta? What is that, if that's not pulling too much behind the curtain?
No, so I've actually been working on this for 4 years. We had the first beta version ready, right? And we were going to launch right before the pandemic hit. And so, because of the pandemic, we actually went back and what was a phase two piece of the project, which was the advertising platform, has become more of a core piece. And so, it is a much better, more diverse, even more unique and dynamic than when I originally thought about it. And in fact, last night I was at Haven and I actually had the kickoff of the rollout of the Bad app. And so it has given everybody access, and I can certainly put in the links so people can are able to download it at the
Super.
time that they're. And I think what will happen is we're starting in Connecticut, then we'll roll out to the tri-state area, then we'll expand to New England, and then we'll see about it as we go across the country. The thing that we've learned is there are people who want to go out pre-gaming, usually the younger folks. There are people who do weekends, and there are folks who want to go on beercations, as I
Mm,
call them, across the country. And in addition to the advertising platform, we are marketing this as a membership club to the brewers. So the idea is you could be a little guy, but for $150 a month, you can get traffic you never would have seen before. And that really only takes two couples to come in for one time and once in the month, and it more than pays for itself. And then the other thing we have in mind is we've built this platform with so much capacity that we can actually use it and license it to other businesses, whether it's wine business, the whiskey business, it could be clothing. We'll take off that database, put on a new one, change the colors and everything else for it. So for those businesses that don't have time or the capital to invest in it, we have confined a way to make and give you a ready-made app that works across the country in a very short period of time.
I love the opportunity for
So it's
that.
really about scaling up. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
of course, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, as I was going to say, just that I don't know that you would call it the white label model, but just that here's a
Yeah.
ready-made platform, just to, ready to turn into your own for whatever, industry use or whatever. Because of course, as you're speaking, I'm thinking of wine, and being from Kentucky, I'm thinking of bourbon, right? So I love that you're thinking bigger picture and beyond your current industry, but that makes sense knowing that you've been in so many. Curt, you referenced Haven, which is obviously how we met and how we're speaking, and getting things opportunities where you're literally hosting a happy hour and kicking off, the next version of your app. What are other ways that Haven has been part of your business, part of your journey? I love
Mhm.
hearing people's stories about that.
So I was introduced to Haven through the Haven Hatch. I actually know Michelle Roca,
Mhm.
Maria Roca,
Right,
and
right, Marie.
and we were on some other call for, and she says, "Oh, we have this thing coming up. You should come by." And so I came to the Haven Hatch, and then Felicia says, "Well, you might want to come back for a day and try it out." So I came in and I tried it out. Then I came to probably another event, and about a year ago, I think I finally said, I can't be in the house with all these people. I have my daughter at home. I have my father-in-law at home some days, and my wife, just makes too much noise downstairs on her calls. So this is a perfect respite for me. I actually do 3 days a week in a private office, so I share it with folks. So I
Nice.
can come in for a 4 hour block, and I find that's incredibly efficient. I think the thing that strikes me the most is how kind people are, how helpful people are. I've met some amazing folks there. The people are always willing and happy to say, "Hey, I want you. Yeah, tell me about what you're doing and where you're going and how is that going to be." And I think that the whole community aspect of it is what sets Haven apart. I looked at other co-working spaces and everybody is, "I'm so secretive. I'm going to make $1 billion. You're going to steal my stuff." It's like, guys, this is not that complicated. I can't read code. I'm not a tech meister, but having now seen and worked with smaller businesses, I can see the nice mix. There are some corporate people that there and have desks. There are some that have mid-sized businesses. There are a number of startup guys, so you can commiserate among each other. And a little bit of everything. Some consultants, fashion designers. There's the watch people. So I think what happens is you go there and it's so calming. It's so relaxing, and it's a perfect spot because my team members I mentioned before, Rick and Maria, are in the area, so we can use that as our place. So we have a set weekly meeting, and we are able to go through and really use it as the hub. So as I grow, I'm hoping to grow into the corner office from the little private office. So we'll see.
Wow, and I love you've touched upon the physical space, right? Like the physical space, which is important, as well as the community piece that I think also, as you've witnessed, is really helpful for small business owners or, solopreneurs, right? In terms of not feeling alone or having resources or feedback, or just as you said, I love the word kind, right? Like this can be a very lonely, sort of overwhelming journey. And when you've got a place to go and rest your weary head or sit down and say, I'm dealing with this, or I just need to get out of my head, and people are there to receive you is what I love about that. So, and I wouldn't have met you if it weren't for Haven.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I would say, Nancy, is some of the programs that I wouldn't have known about, like the book club. So sometimes I'm just walking out and there's a group of folks chit-chatting about a book with the author and with a glass of wine. Curt, do you want to come in? Well, not today, but I've met some neat people through there. I think some of the other events, like there's a lunch and learn kind of piece, and they give the members like myself, I wouldn't have had this chance to have had this happy hour and introduce people in a normal place. But because Haven is this unique connection and of folks that all really looking to make each other better, it's what makes such a difference. And then there's places like there's a podcast room. You can use it if you need. I'm going to be doing focus groups over the next month or so with groups of people. So it's an ideal spot. So all in all, I'm incredibly happy. My wife actually came last night and said, "So this is where you escaped to? Oh, this is so exciting! I really like this."
So this is where you've been going, darling.
Yeah.
Well, Curt, thank you for your time. I have so been looking forward to catching up and hearing how things are going with you and with this very exciting project. So we will put in the show notes information about Craft Beer Insights, and also if you'll share the link for the app. I mean, do people have to be in Connecticut to test it, or it's the brewers that are in Connecticut, but anybody who's interested in coming and learning?
So every single brewer across the country, we have the most complete database of anybody.
Great.
So you can be anywhere in the country, download it and test it. And in fact, the more distinct in different places. One of our key goals here is building a user base. So we're trying to get more people to download it because it will just help.
That's awesome. Okay. And so we'll put that in the show notes as well. And by the time this airs, I can't wait to sort of hear more about how it's going in a month or so in. But thank you for your time, Curt. It's been a treat to speak with you.
Yeah, Nancy, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my whole story. As you can tell, I'm very shy and retired.
We may be returning back to sort of part 2 of the journey. In the meantime, be well and take care.
You too. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Haven is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. Haven is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the Haven community online at haven.com. That's HAYVN.com. Haven Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.